Chapter 1. The Streets of Stratford. Young William's World. Long before the lights of London, before the roar of crowded theaters and the penning of immortal words, he was just a boy. William Shakespeare, born into a small, bustling town called Stratford-upon-Avon, nestled on the banks of a slow-moving river. This is where our story begins. The year is 1564. Stratford's streets are alive, echoing with the clattering of horses' hooves, the cries of street vendors, and the laughter of children running barefoot through narrow alleys. The air smells of earth, leather, and smoke from countless chimneys, a scent that lingers in young William's memories. To him, these streets are a world of adventure, of curiosity, and perhaps a touch of mystery. In this town of crooked buildings and small cottages, William's father, John Shakespeare, is a glovemaker. His shop, nestled on Henley Street, is filled with the scent of leather, the rough touch of wool, and the weight of hard work. William's mother, Mary Arden, works alongside his father, raising her children with care and quiet strength. Together, they teach William the value of craftsmanship and the art of perseverance. But William is no ordinary child. Even as a boy, his mind seems to wander beyond these streets. He sees the world with a strange intensity, noticing things others might ignore. "Why is the sky blue?" he asks his mother. "Why do people lie?" he asks his father. Questions tumble out of him, one after another, his curiosity never satisfied. And as the boy walks through Stratford, he observes, listens, and dreams. On market days, the town square is a noisy spectacle. Farmers, merchants, and traders from distant villages gather here, filling the square with colors, smells, and sounds that ignite William's imagination. Here is a man selling apples, red and green, their skins shining in the morning light. There is a woman selling lace and cloth, her hands swift and skilled. And there, amidst it all, young William stands, eyes wide, absorbing it all, as if every detail might be part of some larger story. But what does a glovemaker's son dream of? The people in Stratford might wonder. They know young William as an inquisitive boy, quick to smile, quick to ask questions, yet often lost in thought. Some say he has his head in the clouds, that he's a strange one. Others dismiss him as just another child. But there's something different about him, something that even he cannot explain. And then, one day, a group of traveling players arrives in Stratford. For William, this is the moment that changes everything. These players, actors from a distant city, bring with them tales of adventure, love, betrayal, and magic. They wear costumes, perform scenes, and speak words that leave William utterly enchanted. He stands there, heart pounding, as he watches the story unfold. He's not just a spectator. He's captivated, drawn into the world they create before his very eyes. As he watches the actors, he feels something stir deep within him, something wild, something powerful. Could words do this? He wonders. Could a story truly make someone laugh, or cry, or feel alive? For the first time, William begins to understand the power of words, the magic they hold, and the endless possibilities that lie within them. Days turn into weeks, and yet he cannot forget that performance. The images linger in his mind, haunting him, filling him with a longing he cannot name. He begins to imagine stories of his own, weaving tales in his head, seeing characters and voices come to life in his thoughts. The narrow streets of Stratford, once so familiar, now seem like a stage, and he, an actor, a storyteller, a creator in the making. But life in Stratford is not all dreams and stories. It is a life of routine, of hard work, and for a boy like William, of expectations. As the son of a tradesman, he is expected to learn his father's craft, to follow in his footsteps, to become a glove-maker himself. His father watches him with pride and hope, believing that one day William will take over the family trade. Yet, in the quiet hours, young William feels the weight of these expectations pressing down on him, pulling him away from the dreams that swirl within him. As the years pass, William's longing for something greater grows stronger, and so does his frustration. He spends hours wandering along the River Avon, watching the water flow slowly by, wondering where his life might take him. The river, steady and silent, becomes a friend to him, a source of comfort and escape. And yet, with every passing year, his restlessness only deepens. And then, a tragedy strikes. In 1577, William's father suffers a financial loss, and the family's fortunes begin to decline. John Shakespeare's business falters, and the comforts they once enjoyed slip away. It's a difficult time for the family, and William, now a young man, feels the weight of responsibility bearing down on him. But in this hardship, he also finds strength, a resolve to rise above his circumstances, to carve a path of his own. But how, he wonders, how does a boy from Stratford find his way to a world beyond? He knows nothing of life outside these streets, these familiar faces. Yet something deep within him refuses to let go of that dream, that spark that was ignited so long ago. One evening, as he stands by the river, he makes a vow to himself. He doesn't know how he'll do it, or where he'll go, but he knows that somehow he will find a way to create, to tell stories, to bring his visions to life. The world may not know his name yet, but one day they will. And so, young William stands there, on the edge of his childhood and the brink of his destiny, a boy with a heart full of dreams and a mind restless for more. The streets of Stratford may be small, but within him, a whole world is waiting to unfold. This is where his journey begins. The boy from Stratford is ready to take his first step into the unknown. Chapter 2. Books and Dreams. Shakespeare's Quest for Knowledge. Knowledge is power, they say. And for young William Shakespeare, this phrase, this simple idea, would become a torch, guiding him through the shadows of his early life. Stratford upon Avon, a small town with few books, few libraries, and fewer opportunities to learn about the world beyond its boundaries. And yet, for William, these limited bookshelves held treasures, secrets, and answers to questions that had haunted him since boyhood. He craved more than his family could give him, more than the town could offer. But how? How could he, the son of a glove-maker, hope to grasp all that knowledge? So he searched day after day with an eager heart and restless eyes. Every scrap of paper, every scroll, every old dusty book that he could find, William devoured them all, as if each word was a piece of magic, a spark of fire lighting up his young mind. In those pages, he found more than just words. He found kings and queens, gods and monsters, heroes and villains. He found whole worlds that he never dreamed could exist. One book held the tales of ancient Greece, of heroes like Achilles, whose strength was both a gift and a curse. William read with wide eyes, feeling as if he could see the towering walls of Troy and the fierce battles that shook its foundations. Another book was filled with the myths of Rome, powerful emperors, cunning generals, the triumphs of Caesar. He marveled at these stories, wondering at the bravery and the tragedy, the pride and the downfall. Did people truly live such lives? He wondered. Did such things really happen? These tales of distant lands, these glimpses into other cultures, other worlds, stirred his soul in ways he could not explain. And with every new story, a new dream began to take root in his heart. A dream of one day capturing such tales with his own words. But in Stratford, books were rare, precious. He could not afford them, nor could he ask his family to buy them. Instead, he relied on borrowed books, on second-hand copies, on texts he had to return before he was ready. He'd study them by candlelight, his fingers tracing each word, his mind absorbing every phrase. His hunger for knowledge grew, and soon he began to wonder if there might be more to learn beyond these worn pages. In time, he found a mentor, a local priest who had noticed William's intelligence, his curiosity, his yearning to learn. This priest, a learned man with access to books William had never seen, took a liking to the boy, guiding him, teaching him the art of reading and writing with greater depth. With every lesson, William's mind expanded, his understanding grew sharper, and his imagination wilder. Under this mentor's watchful eye, William read the Bible, the writings of philosophers, and histories from the ancient world. These weren't just stories. They were life lessons, truths, and reflections of human nature. One evening, after reading tales of kings and betrayals, William sat alone, staring at the pages, his mind racing. Why did kings desire power so greatly? Why did people betray one another? Why did they love, hate, seek revenge? The questions tumbled through his thoughts, and he realized that these tales weren't just about faraway lands or mythological figures. They were about people, just like him, just like his neighbors in Stratford. He began to see that stories weren't merely entertainment. They were reflections of human life, mirrors to our own souls. As William grew, so did his reputation in Stratford. People noticed his intelligence, his love of books, his tendency to disappear for hours, lost in thought. "There goes that Shakespeare boy," they'd say, sometimes with a smirk, sometimes with admiration. To some, he was an oddity. To others, an inspiration. But to William, he was just a boy, searching for something he could not yet name. And so, whenever he could, he'd make his way to the libraries in nearby towns. These journeys were long, sometimes dangerous, but he made them anyway, walking for miles just to glimpse a new book or discover a fresh idea. He'd spend hours in those libraries, moving from one shelf to the next, his fingers tracing the spines of ancient texts, the musty smell of old parchment filling the air. Each book he opened was a door to a new world, a door he stepped through eagerly with a pounding heart and open eyes. Then, one day, as he was poring over a collection of old plays, he felt an idea take hold. These plays, these stories performed on a stage with actors and costumes. They were different from anything he had read before. Here was a form of storytelling that was alive, dynamic, able to reach the hearts of people not just through words, but through action. He wondered what it would feel like to be in the audience, to watch the characters come to life, to see the drama unfold, not on the page, but before his very eyes. That night, he lay awake, the idea burning in his mind. Could he, William Shakespeare, write plays like these? Could he create worlds where people would laugh, cry, dream? The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying. He was just a young man from Stratford, after all. Who would listen to him? Who would believe in his stories? But as dawn broke over the River Avon, lighting up the fields and the rooftops of Stratford, William knew one thing. He had to try. This desire, this hunger for words and stories, was no longer just a passing fancy. It had become his purpose. And so, with a heart full of dreams and a mind bursting with tales, he vowed to learn all he could, to read every book, to study every story, and to capture it all. One day, in words that would live on. The journey ahead would be long, and there would be struggles and heartaches he could not yet imagine. But for now, in the quiet town of Stratford, young William had found his calling. Knowledge, he realized, wasn't just about facts or figures. It was about understanding the world, about understanding people. And more than anything, it was about discovering the stories that lay hidden in every heart. And so, he began to write, not yet a master, not yet a legend, but a young man with dreams as vast as the skies above him and a determination to bring those dreams to life. Chapter 3. The Call of the Stage, A World Awaits. It was a cold, misty morning in Stratford-upon-Avon, but to young William the air felt electric, as if something extraordinary was about to happen. He heard it first, the excited whispers, the shouts in the streets. "Actors! Players in town!" And just like that, his world shifted. For weeks, all anyone could talk about was the troupe of actors passing through Stratford. They were performers from the big city, from London, and they were coming here, to this quiet town, bringing tales of love, war, and wonder. William had never seen anything like it. A performance, a play, real actors. On the day of the performance, he arrived early, his heart pounding, his eyes wide. He found a spot near the front, where he could see the actors up close. The stage was small, simple, but to William it was magnificent. The actors wore bright costumes, their voices loud and clear. When they spoke, it was as if the words were alive, reaching deep into his soul, making him feel things he couldn't quite name. The play began, and William was instantly swept away. There was a king, a noble man with a heart of gold. There was betrayal, a twist he hadn't seen coming. And then love, so pure, it brought tears to his eyes. The actors moved across the stage with grace and power, their words echoing in his mind. He had read stories, of course, but this was different. It was as if he could feel the pain, the joy, the fear of the characters. It was magic. And in that moment, young William knew he wanted to be part of this world. He had to be. The stage was calling him, pulling him towards a life he hadn't dared to dream. How, he didn't know, but he would find a way. Watching the play, he could almost see his own life unfolding before him. A path not yet taken. A future not yet written. When the final scene ended, the crowd erupted into applause. But William just stood there, lost in thought, his heart racing. For him, the world of Stratford felt smaller now, almost too small to hold all his dreams, all his ambitions. He longed for something more, a place where words could change lives, where stories could fill hearts, where he, William Shakespeare, might one day find his place. But Stratford was not London. There were no grand theaters here, no famous playwrights, no stages that filled with thousands of eager eyes. If he wanted to follow this path, he'd have to leave. He'd have to go to London. The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. Could he, a young man with barely a penny to his name, truly make a life in a city he'd only heard stories about? As he walked home that evening, William's mind was filled with questions, doubts, and a spark of something he could not ignore. A calling. But leaving Stratford meant leaving everything he knew. His family, his home, his comfort. He'd be alone, starting from nothing, in a place where no one knew his name. And yet, the idea of staying, of never knowing if he could succeed, that was a fear far greater. The next few weeks passed in a blur. His days were filled with work, the familiar routine of life in Stratford, but his nights, oh, his nights were filled with dreams. Dreams of London's crowded streets, of bustling playhouses, of applause, of his name on posters, and the thrill of the stage. He'd lay awake, staring into the darkness, feeling the weight of his decision pressing down on him. Then one night, as he walked by the river Avon, his mind racing, he made a choice. He would go. He'd find a way to make a life in London, to follow this dream, no matter the cost. He could feel the fear clawing at him, the doubts whispering in his ear. But stronger still was the excitement, the thrill of the unknown, the belief that maybe, just maybe, he could become something more. The morning he left Stratford was quiet. He told his family he'd find work, send money back when he could, but in his heart, he knew the truth. He was chasing something far greater than a job. He was chasing a destiny, a purpose, a chance to change his life forever. The journey to London was long, cold, and exhausting, but each mile brought him closer to the city that had lived in his imagination for so long. When he finally arrived, his heart swelled with wonder and fear. London was like nothing he had ever seen, a place filled with noise, life, and opportunity. The streets were alive with people, the air thick with the scent of smoke and ale, and everywhere he looked, there were signs of life, of ambition, of hunger. He made his way to the theaters, his heart pounding with anticipation. He watched the actors, studied their movements, listened to their words, and every day his desire grew stronger. He wanted to write, to create stories that would move people, that would make them laugh, cry, and think. But first, he had to learn. He had to find his place in this new world. For weeks, William struggled. London was harsh, unforgiving, and he was just one of many, a young man with big dreams and little else. But he worked, finding small jobs, doing whatever he could to survive. And whenever he had a spare moment, he'd watch the actors, listen to the words, and imagine the stories he would one day bring to life. And then, finally, he caught a break. A small role in a play, a chance to stand on the stage, to feel the weight of the crowd's gaze, to speak the words he had so long admired. It wasn't much, but to William, it was everything. As he stepped onto the stage, his heart pounding, his hands shaking, he knew this was just the beginning. He would write. he would create. And one day, his name would be known, not just in London, but across England, across the world. He had answered the call of the stage, and a world of possibilities lay before him. The boy from Stratford had found his path. Now, he just had to walk it. Chapter 4. Pen and Paper, Dreams and Doubts. The ink stains his fingers. The candle flickers low. And there, alone in the dim light, sits William Shakespeare, wrestling with his own words. It is late, the streets of London are quiet, but inside, William's mind is anything but. Tonight, he has decided he must write, truly write. He has the passion, the ideas, the dreams. But as he stares down at the blank page, doubt rises within him, shadowing his ambition. What if no one listens? He wonders. What if his words don't matter? This is a moment of solitude, of struggle. The young man, still unknown to the world, takes a deep breath, the weight of his dreams pressing down on him. He picks up the pen, feels its smooth, cool surface in his hand, and slowly, he begins. At first, his words are clumsy, awkward, as if his thoughts are too big, too wild to fit on the page. He writes, then scratches the lines out, frustrated, impatient. He writes again, his mind racing, the pen unable to keep up. But with every line, he can feel something taking shape, something he can't quite name. Each word is a risk, each sentence a step forward into the unknown. And as he writes, a flicker of excitement dances in his chest. Could this be the beginning? But for every moment of hope, there is a shadow of fear. What if he fails? What if the people laugh, or worse, ignore him? London is filled with talented writers, famous poets, men who have honed their craft over years. Who is he, this young man from Stratford, to think he could stand beside them? His heart beats faster, the weight of his own ambition heavy in his chest. And yet, he cannot stop. No matter the fear, no matter the doubt, something within him drives him forward, pushing him to create, to capture the stories swirling in his mind. He scribbles furiously, his hand moving faster, his thoughts pouring out in a rush, as if afraid they might vanish if he hesitates for even a moment. The candlelight wavers, casting shadows across the room, shadows that seem to dance and move, as if they are characters waiting to be brought to life. And in that moment, William imagines them. Kings, queens, lovers, villains, each with a story, a voice, a life waiting to be written. His heart races with excitement, the thrill of possibility overcoming his doubts. But then, just as quickly, the uncertainty returns. He pauses, his pen hovering above the page, the weight of 1,000 silent voices filling the room. He thinks of his family back in Stratford, of the simple life he left behind, the expectations he has yet to meet. What if he fails? What if he cannot find his way? He feels the familiar pull of fear, the urge to stop, to put down the pen and forget these foolish dreams. But no, he won't give in. Not now, not when he has come so far. He takes a deep breath, steadies his hand, and with a quiet resolve, he continues. Line by line, word by word, he pours himself onto the page, his fears, his hopes, his very soul captured in ink. He writes until his hand aches, until his eyes blur, until he can no longer tell where the story ends and he begins. This is his battle, his struggle, the quiet war he wages with himself. But with every word, He grows stronger, more certain, more determined. He is unknown, yes, and untested. But he is driven by a fire that will not be extinguished. This is what he was meant to do. Finally, as the first light of dawn begins to creep through the window, he puts down the pen, exhausted but filled with a strange, quiet pride. His words may not be perfect. His lines may still lack the polish of a seasoned writer. But they are his. They are a piece of him, a reflection of his dreams, his doubts, his heart. In that moment, he realizes something. Being a writer isn't about perfection. It's about courage. The courage to put pen to paper, to share a piece of oneself with the world, to take the risk, no matter the outcome. And as he sits there, the first pages of his work before him, he knows he has taken that first step. But the journey is far from over. There will be struggles, rejection, moments of despair. There will be days when he questions himself, when he wonders if he's chosen the right path. And yet, deep down, he knows he cannot stop. The words are a part of him now, a part of his soul, and he is willing to face whatever trials may come. For in his heart, he believes, no, he knows, that one day his words will be heard. One day, the world will know his name. And so, William Shakespeare, the young man with dreams as vast as the skies, picks up his pen once more, ready to continue his journey, one line at a time. Chapter 5. The First Success. An Actor's Rise. Backstage, it is dark and crowded. Shadows fall against the wooden beams. Costumes hang in every corner, and actors whisper lines to themselves, their voices low and tense. Somewhere in the middle of it all stands William Shakespeare, his heart pounding with excitement and nerves. Tonight, he takes his first step into the world of the stage. The audience is out there, waiting, their eager murmurs filling the playhouse. William can hear them, feel the buzz in the air. They have come to see a performance, to escape, to laugh, to cry, and for the first time, he is part of it. He is not yet the writer of the play, not yet the name people know, but he is here, an actor among actors, his feet on the stage that has haunted his dreams. The curtain rises, and the play begins. William steps forward, his heart racing, his lines fresh in his mind. And as he speaks, something magical happens. The crowd listens. They lean forward, their eyes fixed on him, hanging on his every word. For a brief, shining moment, he feels their energy, their connection, as if he is no longer a single person, but a vessel for the story itself. The scene ends, the crowd applauds, and William feels it, the thrill, the joy, the taste of something he has longed for. He is not a famous actor, not yet, but he is part of this world now, a world of words and voices, a world that holds a power unlike anything he has ever known. But acting alone is not enough, for as much as he loves the stage, he knows in his heart that his true calling lies in writing, in crafting words that will one day fill the theater, echoing from the mouths of actors, capturing the minds of the audience. And so, when the play ends and the lights fade, William returns to his small room, picks up his pen, and writes. The first play he submits is simple, a short scene, but it is enough to draw the attention of the players. Who wrote this? They ask, curious, intrigued. When they find out it was William the actor, the quiet young man from Stratford. They are surprised, but they give him a chance. The next night, his scene is performed, his words brought to life on stage. It is a small part, a few lines, but for William, it feels like the beginning of something vast, something boundless. From the back of the theater, he watches, his heart pounding with every word. The audience laughs, they gasp, they listen. And in that moment, William realizes the power of his words, the way they can reach into the hearts of strangers, stirring emotions, sparking thoughts, creating a bond. This is what he was meant for. Night after night he returns to the theater, his pen never resting, his dreams growing brighter. His scenes become longer, more complex, his characters richer, his stories bolder. He pours his own life into them, his fears, his hopes, his questions. He writes of love, of betrayal, of laughter, of sorrow, emotions he has felt, emotions he has seen in the faces around him. His talent does not go unnoticed. The players begin to speak of him with admiration, his name whispered backstage, his words repeated with awe. This Shakespeare has something, they say. He can make people feel, make them think. And as the weeks pass, his reputation begins to grow, spreading quietly through the streets of London. He is still unknown to most, still just a young actor, but his words are beginning to find a place, a voice. With every performance, his confidence grows. He watches the crowd, studies their reactions, learns what moves them, what makes them laugh, what brings tears to their eyes. He feels the rhythm of the theater, the way it breathes, the way it lives. And in these moments, he finds himself, not just as an actor, not just as a writer, but as a storyteller, a creator, someone who can shape the world with his words. And then, one night, it happens. A scene he has written, a simple scene of two lovers, separated by fate, is performed. He watches from the shadows, his heart pounding as the actors speak his lines, their voices carrying his words into the hearts of the audience. The crowd sits in silence, their eyes wide, their faces lit by the soft glow of candlelight. For a moment, time stops, and in that silence, he feels the power of his words, the way they have touched these people, brought them into his story. The scene ends, and the crowd erupts in applause, their voices filling the theater. William stands there, hidden, unseen, but he feels it, the taste of success, the thrill of knowing that his words, his dreams, have found their way into the world. But this is only the beginning. For as he listens to the applause, he knows that there is still so much to write, so many stories to tell. He is still unknown to most, still just a young actor with dreams that reach beyond the stars. But he is no longer afraid. The stage has become his world, his words, his purpose, his ambition, his guide. And so, with every line, every scene, he steps closer to his destiny, his name slowly rising, his talent blossoming, his dreams taking shape. This taste of success, this glimpse of triumph, it fuels him, ignites him, and he knows, without a doubt, that he has found his place. William Shakespeare, the young man from Stratford, is no longer just an actor. He is becoming something more, something greater, something that will one day echo through the ages. A playwright, a poet, a master of the stage. Before we begin Chapter 6, a quick note for our listeners. You're currently listening to this audiobook on Woo English. Remember, This content is specially made for Woo English listeners only. If you're hearing it on any other channel, it may be a violation of Woo English's rights. Please ensure you're tuned into the right source to fully enjoy and respect this audiobook journey. Now let's continue the story. Chapter 6. Love and Loss. The Woman in His Heart. Before the lights of London, before the applause and fame, there was a girl named Anne. She was older than him, wise, gentle, and rooted in the quiet life of Stratford-upon-Avon. And to young William, she was the world. Their story began simply, quietly, like so many love stories do. William was just a young man, full of ideas and ambition, but Anne, she was steady, strong. She saw beyond his dreams, into the man he was, into the man he would become. They met in the fields outside of Stratford, walking under the broad English sky, speaking in hushed voices as if the whole world belonged to them alone. In Anne's presence, William felt a kind of peace he had never known. Her smile, her laughter, these were the things that filled his heart in those early days. But their love was more than just laughter and smiles. It was a promise, a bond. They married in 1582, and soon their family began to grow, their lives interwoven with the rhythms of home, of family, of small-town life. It was a simple life, but for a while it was enough. But then came the call, the stage, the lure of London, the dreams that tugged at his heart. William knew he was meant for something more, a life beyond Stratford. And so, with promises of return, he left, leaving Anne behind with their children, his heart torn between the love he had and the future he sought. In the early days, he wrote to her often, letters filled with longing, with stories of the city, with promises of success. He missed her, missed the warmth of their home, missed the life they had built together. But as time passed, as his work consumed him, those letters grew fewer, their words more guarded, their promises harder to keep. The distance between them grew, not just in miles, but in silence, in the unspoken ache of two lives moving along separate paths. And yet, Anne remained. She raised their children, kept their home, held onto the love they had shared. Her heart, though often lonely, was steady. She understood, perhaps better than anyone, the depth of William's dreams, the pull of his ambition. She knew he was not like other men, that his heart belonged not only to her, but to the world, to the words he created, to the stories he told. But still, she waited. For William, the distance brought not just freedom, but a strange kind of sorrow. He loved Anne, loved the life they had shared, yet his heart was restless, his mind forever racing with ideas, with characters, with the endless pull of his art. And in the quiet moments, when the crowds had faded, when the applause had died down, he felt the weight of it all, the love he had left behind, the sacrifices he had made. As he wrote his plays, he found himself returning to themes of love, loyalty, and loss. In Romeo and Juliet, he captured the sweet agony of love, the longing, the desperation. In Othello, he explored jealousy and betrayal. And in Hamlet, he questioned loyalty, the ties that bind, the struggles of the heart. These were not just stories. They were echoes of his own life, reflections of the love he had left behind in Stratford, of the woman who waited, of the heart that remained his anchor, even as he drifted farther from her. And Anne? Anne understood. She read his words, felt the ache in them, the beauty, the pain. She saw herself in the lines he wrote, in the lovers he created, in the stories of longing and loyalty. She knew that despite the miles, despite the distance that time and ambition had carved between them, her love was there, living in his words, immortalized in his plays. Years passed, and with them, life moved on. Their children grew, their home in Stratford aged, and William's fame rose. And yet, each time he returned to Stratford, there was Anne, waiting, welcoming him home with a quiet strength, a love that needed no grand gestures, no promises. She was his constant, his foundation, the one who knew him before the world did, the one who saw the man behind the genius. But love, like all things, is not without its trials. There were whispers in London, rumors of affairs, of women charmed by his words, by his fame. Anne heard them, of course, but she held her silence. She knew the man she had married, knew that while his heart may have wandered, his soul remained hers. She saw his flaws, his struggles, his ambitions, and she loved him still, loved him for the man he was and the man he was trying to be. In the end, their love was not the passionate flame of young lovers, but a steady, enduring fire. It was a love that held through years of separation, through the challenges of fame, through the trials of life. It was a love that, though often shadowed by distance and silence, remained unbroken, unyielding. And as he grew older, as the weight of his years began to settle on his shoulders, William felt the pull of home, of Stratford, of Anne. The stage, the lights, the applause. These things had filled his life, had made him who he was. But now, in the quiet of his later years, he longed for the peace of home, for the comfort of her presence, for the life he had left behind. So, he returned, back to Stratford, back to Anne, back to the woman who had loved him from the beginning. Their lives, though shaped by distance and dreams, found their way back to each other, their love enduring, strong, and true. And thus, behind the words, behind the fame, behind the legendary name of William Shakespeare, was a woman, a love, a story of patience, of loyalty, of a heart that had waited and endured. Chapter 7. The London Stage, Glory and Rivalry. London, a city bursting with energy, a city of dreams, of ambition, of endless possibilities. And for William Shakespeare, it is a city filled with both glory and danger. The theaters of London are alive, their stages lit by flickering candlelight, their audiences restless, hungry for stories that will thrill them, move them, make them feel alive. And in this world, where every performance is a gamble, William stands, not just an actor now, but a playwright, a creator of worlds, his words echoing through the playhouses, captivating the crowds. But with success comes rivalry. The other playwrights are watching, and they don't like what they see. They've heard the murmurs, the praise, the whispers that Shakespeare is different, that his words hold something special. And so, they wait. Critics, rivals, men with pens as sharp as daggers. They lurk in the shadows, eager to tear him down, to find flaws, to prove that this young man from Stratford does not belong among them. One of his fiercest rivals, a playwright named Robert Greene, is particularly vocal, scoffing at the very mention of Shakespeare's name. Greene calls him an upstart crow, a mere actor daring to think himself a writer, a man with a tiger's heart wrapped in a player's hide. His words sting, cutting through the applause, filling William's mind with doubt, with anger, with a burning need to prove himself. But William doesn't back down. With each play, he grows bolder, his words sharper, his characters richer. He writes of kings and jesters, of love and betrayal, of laughter and tragedy. His stories touch the hearts of the common folk and the nobility alike, drawing crowds from every corner of London. They come to see his plays, to hear his words, to feel the emotions he so skillfully weaves into each line. And still, the critics watch, waiting for him to falter. One evening, as he stands backstage, listening to the applause echo through the theater, he overhears a whisper, a rumor that another playwright is planning a new play, one meant to overshadow his work, to steal his thunder. He feels the familiar sting of rivalry, the tension that fills the air, the constant reminder that he is not the only one hungry for greatness. But instead of fear, he feels a thrill, a fire, a challenge. If they want to compete, so be it. He will write better, bolder. He will show them all. So he writes, pouring himself into each play, each scene, each line. He creates characters who are flawed, who are real, who mirror the complexities of the world around him. Hamlet, with his endless questions, Macbeth, with his ambition, Romeo, with his love so intense it burns. These are not just stories. They are pieces of his soul, reflections of his own struggles, his own ambitions, his own fears. And the audiences love it. They laugh, they weep, they shout, they sit in silence, spellbound. With each play, his reputation grows, his fame spreads, his name whispered throughout London. But with fame comes jealousy. The other playwrights seethe with resentment, their envy like a shadow cast over his success. They spread rumors, try to undermine him, accuse him of stealing ideas, of lacking originality. But William knows the truth. He writes from his heart, from his own mind, from the depths of his soul. He knows his words are his own, and he refuses to let the jealousy of others dim his light. One night, as he leaves the theater, he encounters a group of young writers, men who look at him with awe, with admiration, with the same hunger he felt when he first came to London. They ask him for advice, eager to learn, eager to follow in his footsteps. And in that moment, he realizes the power he holds, not just as a writer, but as a voice, a figure, a man whose words have changed the way people see the world. But even with all the glory, the admiration, the success, there is a loneliness, a weight that hangs over him. For with every new play, every new triumph, he feels the pressure to do better, to be greater, to prove himself again and again. The critics, the rivals, they are always there, always watching, waiting for him to stumble. And so he works harder, pushing himself to the edge, sacrificing sleep, comfort, peace. The theater has become his life, his obsession, his world. He knows he cannot stop, not now, not when he has come so far. But in the quiet moments, he feels the toll it takes, the cost of his ambition, the price of his success. Still, he rises. For every harsh word, there's applause. For every rival, there's a friend, an admirer, someone who believes in him, who sees the beauty in his work. And with each performance, each play, he feels his place solidify, his legacy begin to form. He is not just a writer, not just a man. He is a force, a presence, a voice that will echo long after the stage lights dim. And so, With a steady hand, with a heart filled with fire, William Shakespeare steps onto the London stage, ready to face whatever the world may bring. Rivals may come and go, critics may scoff, but he is here to stay. His words, his stories, his legacy, they will live on. For he is not just an actor, not just a playwright, he is William Shakespeare, and he is unstoppable. Chapter 8. A Playwright's Power, the Politics of the Pen. In the shadowed streets of Elizabethan England, words have power. Power to entertain, to inspire, and to challenge. And William Shakespeare, now a rising force on the London stage, feels the weight of that power with every line he writes. The world around him is one of secrets and shadows. Elizabeth Ye sits on the throne, ruling with wisdom and strength, but beneath her reign lies a kingdom full of tension. England's politics are tangled and dangerous, and the Queen's court watches every whisper, every rumor, every public word. For William, the theater is more than a stage. It's a mirror to society, a place where truth can be hidden in plain sight, woven into stories, masked by fiction. But he knows he must tread carefully. His plays are becoming famous, drawing crowds that hang on his every word. He's seen the power his stories have, how a scene of a king's downfall can make an audience sit in hushed silence, how a line about justice can make them whisper, nodding in agreement. His words reach deep into their hearts, awakening feelings, thoughts, questions they might never voice aloud. Yet with that power comes risk. In England, to speak boldly against the crown, to criticize the powerful, is a crime that can lead to exile, even death. So William learns to write with care, to wrap his ideas in layers of meaning. He gives voice to the powerless, the betrayed, the oppressed, but he does so with caution, with skill, with the cleverness of a man who knows he is playing with fire. One of his most daring plays, Richard II, tells the story of a king's downfall. To the common man, it's a historical drama, a story of ambition and betrayal. But to those who understand, it is more. It questions the very nature of power, of authority, of kingship. What makes a king? It asks. Is it birth or the will of the people? The play is performed, and the reaction is electric. Some see it for what it is, a challenge, a reflection of their own world, a question thrown at the feet of those in power. And when word of the play reaches the royal court, whispers spread, nervous glances exchanged. Does this playwright, this William Shakespeare, mean to question the monarchy itself? But William is careful. When asked, he simply smiles and says, "It's a story of history, nothing more." His eyes give nothing away, his words guarded. And so, the play continues, its message left for the people to interpret, for the bold to consider, for the wise to understand. With each new play, he explores themes of power, justice, and loyalty. Hamlet asks questions about the truth, about betrayal, and the corruption of leadership. Macbeth paints a portrait of ambition unchecked, of a man driven to ruin by his own thirst for power. Julius Caesar shows the dangers of betrayal, the consequences of pride, and the people. They see themselves in these plays. They see their struggles, their questions, their own lives. They see the nobility brought low, the rulers questioned, the powerful held to account. And in those moments they feel a sense of courage, a spark of rebellion, a taste of freedom. Shakespeare's words have given them something precious, a voice, a truth wrapped in the safety of fiction. But it is not without cost. Rivals, jealous of his success and wary of his influence, accuse him of subversion, of using his plays to plant dangerous ideas in the minds of the public. Some critics call him reckless, a man who toys with things he does not fully understand. And yet, he writes on, driven by the knowledge that his words matter, that his stories have the power to change hearts, to shape thoughts, to question truths. One evening, as he walks the quiet streets of London, he thinks of the people who come to see his plays. He sees the faces of men and women who live hard lives, who work under the thumb of powerful lords, who have little say in their own fate. And he knows that his words are for them, that his plays give them something they cannot find anywhere else. But the risks remain. With each performance he walks a fine line, balancing art with caution, daring with restraint. He must be clever, careful, ever aware of the eyes that watch, the ears that listen. He hides his messages in metaphors, buries his ideas in the minds of his characters, layers his stories with meaning, so that only those who look closely will see the truths within. And so, the playwright becomes more than a storyteller. He becomes a voice, a reflection, a mirror held up to the world around him. His plays are no longer just entertainment. They are a commentary, a challenge, a quiet rebellion whispered from the stage. As he writes, he feels the weight of his choices, the consequences of his words. He knows that he cannot say everything he wishes to, that there are limits to what he can put on paper. But he also knows that even a single line, a single scene, can change a mind, spark a question, make someone see the world a little differently. Words hold power, and William Shakespeare understands that power, perhaps better than anyone. He wields it with care, with wisdom, with the knowledge that his plays, his words, his voice will live on, long after the politics of his time have faded, long after the names of kings and queens have become mere footnotes in history. And so, with pen in hand, he continues his journey, each play a masterpiece, each line a gamble, a risk worth taking. Chapter 9. The Plague Years, Shadows, and Survival. Death is everywhere. London, a city once filled with the noise and life of the theater, now lies silent, its streets emptied, its doors bolted shut. The plague has come, and with it fear, despair, and the ever-present shadow of death. For William Shakespeare, these are dark days. The theaters have closed, the stages are empty, and the laughter of the audience has faded into memory. The city is gripped by a fear so intense it is almost tangible, hanging in the air like smoke, clinging to every word, every whispered prayer. People hide in their homes, friends avoid one another, and the sound of church bells tolling for the dead is constant. It's not safe to stay, but it's not safe to leave. And William, like so many others, wonders if he will survive, if he will ever write again, if the stories he has yet to tell will vanish before they ever find their way onto the stage. At first, there's nothing to do but wait. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months. William spends his hours in isolation, his mind restless, his heart heavy. Without the theater, without the life and energy of the stage, he feels as if a part of him has been locked away, a piece of his soul left to wither in the dark. He fears that his words, his creativity, may die in this silence, that the stories within him may fade, lost to the shadows. But in the quiet, in the darkness, he begins to see something hidden, something waiting to be told. As he sits alone, his mind drifts to thoughts of mortality, of life and death, of the fragility of the human experience. He thinks of the people suffering, of the loved ones lost, of the despair that grips the world. And he feels deep within him the stirrings of a new understanding. The stories he has yet to tell are not merely about kings and battles, love and betrayal. They are about survival, about resilience, about the courage it takes to face death and still cling to life. And so, as the plague rages on, William picks up his pen, his mind filled with new ideas, new insights, new questions. He writes not to entertain, but to survive. In the shadow of the plague, he writes sonnets, lines of poetry filled with longing, with sorrow, with hope. These are not the grand tales of the stage, not the sweeping dramas that once drew crowds to the theater. These are personal, intimate, a reflection of the pain he sees, the pain he feels. He writes of love, of loss, of the moments that define us, the moments that shape who we are in times of hardship. And as he writes, he feels the weight lift, if only slightly. His words become a lifeline, a way to reach out, to connect, to remind himself that he is still here, still alive, still creating. The world may be silent, the theaters may be closed, but his words endure. One evening, as he sits alone, he hears the distant sound of a cart rolling down the street, a man's voice calling out, "Bring out your dead." The chill of it runs through him, a stark reminder of the world outside, of the countless lives claimed by this relentless disease. And in that moment, he understands the importance of his work, the power of stories, the comfort they bring, the way they can help people face even the darkest of times. It is not easy. He is plagued by doubt, by fear, by the constant question of whether his words will ever reach an audience again. There are days when he cannot write, when his mind is clouded by despair, when he feels as if he is trapped in an endless night. But he holds on, clinging to his craft, finding strength in the stories he creates, the characters he brings to life on the page. He thinks of those who have come to his plays, of the laughter and applause, of the way his words have touched lives, even if only for a moment. And he knows that he must keep going, must keep writing, for them, for himself, for a future he cannot yet see. Slowly, the plague begins to wane. Life returns, cautiously, tentatively, like a flower opening after a harsh winter. The theaters reopen, the actors return, and once again, the city breathes. But William is not the same man he was before. The shadows have left their mark. The darkness has carved new depths into his soul. And as he steps back onto the stage, he brings with him these experiences, this newfound understanding. His plays become richer, his characters deeper, his words infused with a rawness, a truth born from the trials he has endured. He has faced despair and survived. And now he writes not just as a playwright, but as a man who has looked into the depths of the human experience, who has seen the light that can emerge even from the darkest of shadows. The plague years are over, but their echoes remain, woven into his work, into his words, into the very fabric of his being. And as the audience fills the theater once more, as they laugh and cry and feel the power of his stories, William knows that he has found something precious, something lasting. For he has learned that even in the darkest times, there is hope. And as long as he has words, as long as he has stories, he will continue to shine that light for himself and for the world. Chapter 10. The Heart of the Globe, the Theatre that Changed Everything. London, 1599. The Globe Theatre rises along the banks of the Thames, a wooden structure, round and mighty, like a crown for the city's passion for drama. This place, this theatre, is destined to become the beating heart of William Shakespeare's career. For William, the Globe is more than a building. It is a dream made real, a stage upon which he will bring his stories to life, a place where his words will take flight. It is here, in this open-air theater with its tiered balconies and crowded pit, that he will make his mark, that he will create something that will live on long after he is gone. As the Globe opens its doors for the first time, the excitement is electric. Crowds pour in, eager for the performance, buzzing with anticipation. Some are nobles, seated above in the shaded balconies, while others, the groundlings, stand below, packed shoulder to shoulder, laughing, chattering, waiting to be dazzled. The smells of sweat, ale, and London streets fill the air, and the sounds of drums and voices echo through the theater. William stands just out of sight, listening, feeling the pulse of the audience. This is why he writes. This is why he spent countless nights crafting scenes, building characters, weaving plots that would stir the heart and ignite the mind. And tonight, his play will be unveiled before the world, his words spoken not just in the quiet of his room, but on the stage, loud and alive. The curtain rises. The actors step onto the stage, their voices clear, their movements graceful, and the crowd falls silent. William watches from the shadows, his heart pounding as his characters come to life. He knows every line, every gesture, every breath. But seeing it here, before the crowd, it is like witnessing magic. The audience laughs, gasps, sighs, caught in the spell of his story, living every twist and turn as if it were their own. And for William, this is everything. Here, in the Globe, he is not just a writer. He is a creator, a visionary, a man whose words have the power to shape thoughts, to move hearts, to make people see the world anew. He feels it with each cheer, each moment of silence, each tear that glistens in the eyes of the audience. This theater is alive, and he is its beating heart. With each new play, his reputation grows. The Globe becomes a place of wonder, a beacon of drama, a place where London's people come to escape, to be entertained, to be inspired. Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, Macbeth. These are not just plays. They are experiences, moments that stay with the audience long after the final curtain falls. The Globe has given his work a home, a place where it can shine, where it can be seen and heard and felt. But it is not just the audience that is moved. For William, the Globe is a place of growth, of learning, of discovery. Here, he experiments, pushes boundaries, explores new ideas, dares to tell stories that challenge, that question, that provoke. He writes of love, of power, of fate, of the human soul in all its beauty and darkness. And with each play, he feels himself changing, evolving, becoming something greater than he ever imagined. Yet, there are challenges. Rival playwrights watch his every move. Critics dissect his every line, and the demands of success weigh heavily on his shoulders. The theater is a world of competition, of ambition, of men and women driven by the hunger to be remembered. And William? He must be the best. Every performance is a test, every new play a gamble, every line a chance to prove himself once more. But the globe gives him strength. It is his sanctuary, his stage, his home. When he stands within its walls, he feels invincible, his doubts quieted, his fears set aside. Here, surrounded by actors, by the hum of the crowd, by the glow of candlelight, he finds his purpose, his calling, his place in the world. One evening, as he watches the crowd, he realizes something. This is his legacy. This theater, this stage, these plays. They are his gift to the world, his mark on history, his way of living on. And he feels, for the first time, a sense of peace, of fulfillment, of knowing that he has achieved something lasting, something real. The years pass, and the globe thrives, a constant in an ever-changing city. Through seasons of prosperity, through times of struggle, it remains a place of laughter, of tears, of dreams. William watches as his plays continue to fill the seats, as his words continue to touch lives, as his name becomes known not just in London, but across England. And yet, even as his fame grows, he remains humble, grounded, ever aware of the fragility of life, the fleeting nature of success. The globe, he knows, is more than a theater. It is a reminder of all he has worked for, all he has sacrificed, all he has achieved. And he is grateful for every moment, every performance, every soul touched by his words. As the curtain falls on another performance, as the crowd erupts in applause, as his actors take their bows, William stands in the shadows, a smile on his face, his heart full. He has built something beautiful, something lasting, something that will endure beyond his lifetime. And so, in the heart of the globe, William Shakespeare finds his legacy. The man from Stratford, the playwright, the poet, he has become more than just a name. He has become a part of history, a voice that will echo through the ages, a light that will never fade. Chapter 11. Farewell to the stage, a quiet return to Stratford. Every journey, no matter how grand, must come to an end. And so, William Shakespeare, the great playwright, the master of words, returns to Stratford, the town where it all began. The years have been kind to him in many ways, but time has left its mark. His steps are slower now, his once bright eyes softened by age. He walks the familiar streets of Stratford, each cobblestone, each turn reminding him of the boy he once was, the boy with dreams too big for a small town, the boy who wanted to touch the world. But that boy, he is no more. William Shakespeare has returned, not as a child, but as a man who has lived, who has loved, who has conquered. The old house on Henley Street feels smaller now, quieter, filled with memories. He can almost hear the echoes of his childhood, the laughter, the voices of his parents, the scent of his father's leather shop. So much has changed. And yet, so much remains the same. He feels a sense of peace here, a quietness he hasn't known in years. The rush of London, the lights of the stage, the hum of the crowd, they are all memories now, part of another life, a life he has left behind. But he is not just a man returning home. He is a man carrying years of stories, of heartbreaks, of triumphs. As he sits by the window, watching the gentle flow of the river Avon, he reflects on the path he has walked. The plays, the applause, the moments of doubt, the rivals, the friends, the words that became his life. Each memory is a chapter, each chapter a piece of him, woven into the fabric of his soul. He has given everything to his art, and now, as he feels his strength fading, he wonders if it was enough. He has written of kings and fools, of love and death, of the light and darkness of the human soul. He has poured himself onto the page, and yet he feels a quiet longing, a desire not for fame, not for glory, but for rest, for peace. His daughters, Susanna and Judith, watch over him now, their gentle presence a comfort, a reminder of the life he has beyond the stage. They sit with him, sharing stories, bringing laughter into the room, filling it with warmth. He sees in them the future he has left behind, the legacy that will endure, not in words, but in the lives he has touched, in the family he has created. And then, of course, there is Anne, his wife, his constant, the woman who waited through the years, through the distance, through the silence. She is older now, her face lined with the marks of time, but to William, she is as beautiful as the day they first met. She has been his anchor, his heart, the quiet strength that held him steady, even as he chased his dreams far from home. One evening, as the sun sets over the town, he takes a walk along the riverbank. The water glows with the colors of dusk, the world bathed in golden light. He stands there, watching the gentle current, feeling the weight of his life settle upon him. This river, this town, this life, they are all a part of him, as much as his plays, his fame, his words. He feels a sense of gratitude, a quiet acceptance, knowing that he has lived fully, that he has given all he could. He returns to his room, the familiar scent of the old wooden beams and candle wax surrounding him, and he takes up his pen one last time. He writes, not for the stage, not for the audience, but for himself. A few lines, a reflection, a final thought. The words flow easily, as if they have been waiting all this time, waiting for this moment. Our revels now are ended, he writes, his hand steady, his heart calm. He has said all he needs to say, given all he has to give. There is no need for more. He puts down the pen, a gentle smile touching his lips, a feeling of completion settling over him. He has found his peace. The days pass quietly in Stratford, the world of the stage drifting farther from his thoughts. He spends his time with his family, with Anne, with the memories of a life well lived. And as the seasons change, he feels himself growing weaker, his spirit ready to let go, his heart at ease. One spring morning, as the town stirs with the promise of a new day, William Shakespeare closes his eyes for the last time, his soul finally at rest. The boy who left Stratford in search of the world has returned home, leaving behind a legacy that will echo through the ages. And thus ends the journey of William Shakespeare. The playwright, the poet, the dreamer. His words will live on, his stories will endure, his name will never be forgotten. And somewhere, in the heart of Stratford, his spirit finds its final peace. Chapter 12. The Eternal Legacy, Shakespeare's Unending Influence. 400 years have passed, yet his words still echo, filling theaters, classrooms, libraries, and hearts around the world. William Shakespeare may be gone, but his voice, his stories, his legacy, they live on. Imagine a crowded theater, lights dimmed, the audience hushed as a young actor steps onto the stage. To be or not to be, he begins, his voice trembling with emotion, the words hanging in the air, as relevant, as powerful as they were when first spoken centuries ago. This is Shakespeare's gift, a voice that transcends time, that speaks to us now as clearly as it did then. In classrooms across the globe, students wrestle with his words, uncovering layers of meaning, feeling the weight of his ideas. They read of Romeo's passion, Juliet's defiance, Hamlet's indecision, and feel themselves reflected in these characters, in their struggles, their triumphs, their heartbreaks. They see in Shakespeare's plays not just stories of the past, but mirrors of their own lives. And in each line, each phrase, they find something new. They find truth, beauty, sorrow, joy. They find words for feelings they could never describe, words for emotions they could never name. For Shakespeare, with his pen, has given us a language for the human soul, a language that captures what it means to love, to hate, to dream, to suffer, to hope. His influence stretches far beyond the theater. In literature, in art, in film, his stories are retold, reimagined, revived. Directors from Tokyo to New York bring Macbeth, Othello, The Tempest to life, adapting his timeless tales to new settings, new voices, new worlds. Painters, poets, musicians draw from his work, finding inspiration in his verses, his characters, his vision. And yet, it is more than the art. It is the impact on our hearts, our minds, our lives. When we face a choice, we remember Hamlet's doubts. When we fall in love, we feel Romeo's fire. When we face loss, we find ourselves alongside King Lear, feeling the weight of grief, the fragility of life. Shakespeare did not just tell stories. He captured the essence of what it is to be human, and he shared that with us across centuries, across cultures, across time. There are those who study his life, who ponder the mystery of the man behind the words. How did he, a humble man from Stratford, come to know the world so deeply, so intimately? How did he find the words that still move us, still haunt us, still speak to us? The questions remain, but the answers perhaps do not matter. For it is his work, his gift to us, that endures. In every generation, new readers discover him, new audiences applaud him, new voices carry his words. His influence is woven into our language, our stories, our understanding of ourselves. He has given us words that empower, that question, that heal. And with each passing year, his legacy only grows, reaching new places, new people, new hearts. In Stratford-upon-Avon, his birthplace, people gather to honor him, to celebrate the man whose words changed the world. The theaters are filled, the streets alive with the spirit of the boy who once walked those very paths, who left to find his destiny, and in doing so, found immortality. And so, the journey of William Shakespeare continues, his story unending, his legacy eternal. As long as there are people who read, who dream, who love, who feel, as long as there are those who seek to understand the mysteries of the heart, the depths of the soul, the beauty of life, his words will remain. This is the true gift of Shakespeare. Not the fame, not the glory, not the praise, but the knowledge that through his words he has touched lives, spoken to generations, given a voice to the timeless truths of the human experience. The journey is ended. The curtain has fallen. But the story lives on forever.